kind of gel. And usually you're gelling around the right time, and that team in the other locker room is gelling at the right time. They've been gelling since Christmas. You know, I don't want to be too cliche, but I don't have a lot of answers for how you make up time, you know, from October until now, when, you know, usually teams would be gelling and things would be feeling good.
Kyrie Irving is blaming a lack of continuity for the Nets' struggles in the first round series against the Celtics, a series they trailed 3-0. It's a bit rich, that comment from Kyrie, though, given that his refusal to take the COVID vaccine resulted in him missing 57 of the Nets' 86 games so far this season. Kyrie and the Nets have been so tamed by the Celtics that critics have even started to question the greatness of Kevin Durant. Yes, the same Kevin Durant who's a 12-time NBA All-Star, 2-time NBA champion, 2-time Finals MVP, 1-time regular season MVP, 4-time NBA scoring champion, Rookie of the Year, and so many other things that I don't have time to mention. But the man they call the easy money sniper is struggling for air in the face of suffocating defense from the Celtics, led by Defensive Player of the Year Marcus Smart.
Something. I don't want to badmouth the dude, but I see you guys always talk about that championship stuff. I try to tell y'all, all these bus riders, they don't mean nothing to me. If you ain't driving the bus, don't walk around talking about you're a champion. If you riding the bus, I don't want to hear it. Come on, Shaq, tell them. All these guys walk around with these championship rings. Hey, y'all bus riders. But let me tell you something. 2 in a row, Chuck. When you the bus driver, and you got all that pressure where you have to play well or you're going to get the blame, that's a different animal.
Gotta love Chuck. Well, remember Ben Simmons, the one-time Fresh Prince of the 76ers? Well, the 25-year-old Aussie has yet to play for the Nets since ending a tortured existence in Philadelphia. But you would think that with the Nets in desperate need of inspiration, that Simmons would push himself to offer some assistance. Nope. After his handlers talked up his readiness for Game 4, these same handlers then backtracked, saying Simmons has lower back pain that will keep him out of action. Some of the biggest names in NBA punditry, plus some fans, have made their feelings known about Simmons' failure to offer the drowning Nets a lifeline. Kendrick Perkins. Ben Simmons has officially completed the biggest heist in NBA history. He really sat out an entire season? Carry on. Reggie Miller. Come on, man. Out for Game 4 when it was rumored you were going to make your debut? This dude has zero competitive fire. As small a chance as the Nets have to come back in this series, you still have KD and Kyrie. All you need is to win one game and take it from there. Hashtag man up. Joining us now is an analyst who always mans up, Alister Albert. Alister, good afternoon.
That's right, guys. Good afternoon.
Yep. All right. The first place to start is, I'm tempted to start with the Fresh Prince, but let's leave him for later. Let's talk about the Nets and the Celtics for those who turn up and suit up night after night. The fact is, I want from your perspective, Alister, to hear what about the Celtics defense in theory and practice that appears to the Nets as if it's something written in Chinese language?
Wow, it's going to be really plain and simple. It's youth, athleticism, length, and will and tenacity. You know, these guys have come into this series wanting to prove a point. Their two leaders, Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, and also Defensive Player of the Year, newly minted Defensive Player of the Year, Marcus Smart. They wanted to prove a point coming into this series. You know, they started off the year a bit rocky. They turned it around. They had 1 point with 18 and 21 at 1 point to the season, and then from that point on just turned it around and became like the best team in the East. And these guys have come in with a level of length, a level of discipline. You had to give a lot of credit to Ime Udoka, their first-time head coach, who's come in and instilled a very Spurs-like brand of disciplined basketball when it comes to the defensive side of the court. And they've been able to carry that through that time when you see they turn their season around. And what it really shows as well is these guys pay very close attention in their film sessions. They take on the scouting report very seriously. They really try to analyze player tendencies, and they were able to really put Kevin Durant in through his paces and making him struggle. If you look at Kevin Durant throughout his whole career, a lot of his points usually do come from the perimeter. A lot of jump shots, getting into that rhythm, dancing a little bit at the top, side to side crossovers, power dribble, and taking a jump shot. These guys have managed to actually deny him the ball, even getting a hold of the ball and getting too comfortable from the start. And when he gets into that action of trying to, get to dribble and get to his spots, they are right there with him, two guys jumping up at him. So it's just a level of tenacity, flooding him and crowding him every time he gets the ball and tries to get into his positions. And there's a level of discipline that they've shown all year. And that's why they're the second, best defensive team in the league. And, they're just showing it right now against an all-world player.
Yeah, but it's funny you speak about what they're doing to Kevin Durant. I've been watching Durant so long, Alister. I remember him in the Sonics jersey. That was how long, when he was this skinny guy, which is what drew me to him, because I was fascinated about how this skinny dude would cut it in the NBA after a stellar college career, and he has been dynamite ever since. I've never seen him look like I've seen him in these 3 games. I've never seen defensive coverage together reduce Kevin Durant to only 11 shots in one game, 1 basket in the second half of the game 3. I've never seen individuals make him as uncomfortable as these Celtics have made him in this series so far. Is it that he's losing it? Allied with the fact that the Celtics are perhaps at their physical peak right now and Durant is losing it? Or is it that the Nets are just a crap team?
I don't think he's losing it. I think when we go back to the offseason and the season starts next year, and hopefully with some of that continuity that Kyrie Irving talked about, maybe this season might be just an aberration and, he might be able to prove it again. And I actually think tonight in Game 4, he might actually step up and kind of revert to kind of Kevin Durant of old. And, the averages kind of get back to what you usually see from him. But in saying that, I think it's really him getting a level of coverage. And this is a guy who's been in the league for quite a lot of time, and he's seen all sorts of defensive coverages. But, when you have a guy who's as lengthy and athletic as Jason Tatum, who's basically on par with him offensively and defensively, just sticking in his airspace, and guys like Robert Williams, although he hasn't been in the series for very well at all, he only played Game 3, the last game, but Grant Williams, Jaylen Brown taking turns on him, Marcus Smart, trying to prevent, be a bit of a pest. It just kind of just takes the wind out of you. And this is a guy who hasn't played many games this season as well. Let's remember that. And some of that continuity that Kyrie Irving talked about might be affecting him as well. Trying to understand his positions on the court, trying to get into his flow, trying to get into different sets. And it's just not working out for him. But credit to the Celtics defense. I think it's more about what they're doing rather than what Kevin Durant is kind of not offering. Although it's really tough to say, because this is his worst playoff performance from the time he's entered into the playoffs and since 2009. And he has a long way to come back to kind of show he can be who we know he is.
Yeah, and Alister, coming into this series, a lot of talk about the dynamic duo of KD and Kyrie Irving, and how, they would literally be these masterminds and nobody would be able to break them down and whatnot. Let's spend some time talking about how the team, both of them together, have failed to live up to that title.
When we last appeared on and we had this little conversation trying to predict after the play-in tournament, I kind of made that little prediction that, I believe the Celtics had a bit of the edge, and Mariah wasn't too, I think she was a bit surprised.
You were the first person to reach out to me on Twitter after.
Right. Yeah, so I brought it up, and there was a little bit of surprise there, but I think what it's really showing is I will really give a lot of credit more so to Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, because I think this is a defining moment for them. This is a defining career moment for both of them. Although this is the first round, this is not the Eastern Conference Finals, it's not the finals itself. But, you're going up against a guy who has been touted as, at least for this season, the best in the world. LeBron James is out of the picture, early exit, and, Kevin Durant being the offensive dynamo that he is. Everyone's been saying that, he's probably the best in the world, ready to overtake an aging LeBron James. But, Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown have come into this season, they've heard all of the talk about, split them up. They're not really that good. Let's try to see if you could get whatever you can, draft picks and another player for either one of them, and kind of rebuild this team over. And they've come together. Jason Tatum has kind of taken the helm of the team. He's averaging 29 points per game in this series, and he's just kind of taking the team on his back. The both of them as that dynamic duo from the Celtics side, and they've been able to neutralize the Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving. And it's something else. George asked a question on whether or not is this really it for Kevin Durant, and is he just really a bad player, and are the Nets really just bad? I don't think so. I think it's just really it's a microcosm of how bad the season was for them. I think, and it's just everything just playing out. It's just been a nightmare, and everything's just playing out and being exposed for everyone to see this year.
And now to the hot topic of Ben Simmons. Is he pretending, or has he lost his mojo, or did he realize that, the team is in so much danger that he doesn't want to risk his reputation, so he just leaves them to suffer?
I've had a really hard time believing Ben Simmons all year. I'm really sorry. And I know there's a lot of, conversations about, trying to look at the other side and trying to give him, the benefits of the doubt. At one point in the year, I was actually trying to kind of give him credit for maybe some of the stuff going on. When I heard that he had to get an epidural in his back, it was like, well, man, you're not going to be taking an epidural if something is actually wrong with you, well, not wrong with you. So, he's probably undergoing some really serious back pains and everything. The mental health issues that we said, he had a tough playoff showing last year. And, that's all just kind of helped with the spiral that we're seeing right now. But, coming back, everyone was talking about him being ramped up. He's playing 4-on-4. You see all the videos of him shooting. He's sending out emojis on social media showing that he's ready. He's going to be kind of getting ready for the game and everything. And then of course the reality of the situation sets in. You're down 3-0. Everyone's been saying if you've been in this series, you probably would offer quite a lot of resistance to the Celtics in terms of your size, your skill. This guy's a terrific player, an all-star for 3 years since he's been in the league, and a defensive player of the year, a candidate for at least last season. So everyone's been waiting for him. Yeah, I think if Ben Simmons was like just an average player, I don't think he'd be getting a lot of the criticism and flack that he's been getting. It's because he's a really good player. But everything that
but hold on, Alister. The last part before we go, running out of time, I have to squeeze this one in.
All right, no problem.
You have a two-time NBA champion, a two-time Finals MVP, a regular season MVP, Kevin Durant. You have an NBA champion, Kyrie Irving, who wasn't a passenger on the bus, as Chuck was intimating. He was driving alongside LeBron. You have these two guys, and then you have the rest of the Nets roster. Mm-hmm. Isn't it realistic, Alister, to imagine that this Nets team that is groping for real form and consistency in the series against the Celtics, that these players, this team, is not sitting around wondering if Ben Simmons is coming to help them. Ben Simmons of no NBA final, no MVP, no big individual honor. A good player, of course, at his best. But we're not talking about a man who has changed the course of NBA playoff series in the past. So am I right to believe Kyrie, KD and company are not worried about Ben Simmons coming to help them? They're worried about focusing their minds and rising to this Celtics challenge.
That's a good interjection there, because Kevin Durant himself said he was playing the series and preparing as if Ben Simmons was not going to play. So these guys had already been focused on him not being there and everything. But when you really think about it and what we were actually trying to say here with him and what he would actually be able to contribute, this is a guy who even if people were not preparing for him or anything, he could offer something to that team, a level of resistance, some size, some playmaking ability, that offers just another dynamic to this team. We saw what Steve Nash did the last game. He got really desperate and put Blake Griffin into the game just to try to inject some level of difference to what was actually happening to the flow of the game. Ben Simmons could offer at least something where that's concerned. So it's really disappointing that he didn't actually step up. And that's why I kind of feel like, he's kind of faking it. I believe Mariah is right. He's trying to maybe preserve some of the issues going on with him for this season. And it's really disappointing. So we just have to wait to see what happens next season. Hopefully he stays there and we'll see what goes on.
Yeah, he'll be in town for sure to prove the doubters wrong. Thank you very much, Alister. All the best to you.
See you guys later.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know if those guys are sitting around waiting for Ben Simmons.
I don't think so either.
I don't think they are, but my issue is with Ben Simmons. Like, based on my conversations with my sister, whenever she doesn't get to play, right? Any athlete always wants to play. Like, especially if something is going wrong with your team, you feel as if you could be the game changer. You could fix something. You will do something that the rest of them can't do. Ben Simmons sits on that bench in the best outfits, night after night, and does nothing. How can you even be an athlete, like a team player? Like, what are you, a fashionista?
Well, you see, these are good questions to ask.
Yeah.
He's made a rod, he's cut a rod for his own back because of his behavior with the 76ers. What is true, though, is that as an elite athlete, you'll know your body. And if you're feeling lower back pain, then you're feeling lower back pain. A fit Ben Simmons wouldn't change the course of this series. An injured Ben Simmons would be an additional obstacle to the Nets in these circumstances. Yeah.
Before we go, though, anyone worried about the Suns? Locked 2-2 in their series with the Pelicans. The Pelicans beat them by 11 in Game 2, beat them by 15 in Game 4, and the regular season champions are stuttering.
I have bigger problems to be worried about the Nets.
I was about to ask Alister if he doesn't think that Brandon Ingram from the Pelicans is the player of the playoffs so far.
He's been brilliant.
He's been sublime.
And Alister has the Suns as winning the NBA.
That was before Devin Booker pulled his hamstring.
No, but I'm so glad you all reminded me that, because when the Nets lost, Alister sent me a tweet so the world could see. So I can't wait to tweet about the Suns.
No Devin Booker equals no NBA title for the Suns. That's a fact.
Break time.